to a different scene when I see it rolling. Okay, I can go live on Facebook. I see the button. I will click it in a second. Okay. Whew. Going live here. Uh, a lot going on my screen.
You there?
I am.
Okay.
I don't hear Michal.
No, I don't either. Okay.
Okay, Michal says all good in the chat. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
All right, guys. So the
Okay.
microphones weren't muted. We are live. This is the
Nice.
Surfers Academy special. I got some great guests for you. Let's start with some introductions as it's already 6 p.m. here in Poland. So I'm joined with the growth advisor, Kevin Indig. Thank you for coming, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm joined with Eric. Eric is an SEO for ages, my partner in crime in making some data analysis, which were crazy. Thank you for coming, Eric.
Thank you for having me very much.
All right, where are you from, viewers? We already got 46, 47 people on YouTube. We are experimentally streaming to LinkedIn, to Facebook. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think it may be one of the biggest events. All thanks to you guys. Again, thank you so much for coming. What are we talking about today is data analysis in SEO. And let me start with basically asking you this fundamental question. Why do you look into data when doing SEO? Who want to start?
Eric, as OG in the room, you go first.
Okay. So I think for me, what's interesting is where it all started, which is that I was at SEM Rush working there when there was only 14, 16 employees in the US. Of course, that was a long time ago there. Now they're a $2.5 billion company. And there really wasn't anyone that was kind of taking what we had beyond the tool use for the users, many of which are enterprise and using huge amounts of data, but not trying to see what we can do internally. So yeah, I just grabbed the bull by the horn. I was like, this is crazy. We had our own internal API. It would have cost a fortune if you had used some of the data I was using externally. And I said, gosh, what can I do with this? And it was a very new thing to me, even though I'd done a lot of SEO before. And I started doing data studies and publishing them actually in Search Engine Journal at that time. So that's what really got me excited. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I want to do a really big one. And so Moz have been doing the biggest, like, yearly, studies, rank studies. And I ended up doing one probably even bigger than theirs with Brian Dean. So that's where it all started. That's where it's at for me.
Kevin,
Yeah,
what about you?
just share my background. I think the first time I got exposed to a large data analysis was when I worked at Searchmetrics. Searchmetrics also published these ranking factor studies, and it was quite insightful. And then not shortly after, but a couple of years later, the whole sentiment towards ranking factor studies turned a little sour, and everybody was like, correlation is not causation, which I think was a big mistake. that the community made. But anyway, ever since, I've been trying to get my hands on as many data sets as possible. It's essentially a way to explore the world and to better understand the world. There's no perfect data, and you always have to be cautious. But I think we've gotten a little too lazy with the whole, it's only, we cannot draw conclusions. We have to be careful. Yeah, sure, that's the case. That's fine. But like, it's the same in science, right? Like, there's no study in science that says, oh, this is the end all be all, right? Every study has limitations. Every study has further questions that need to be answered. And so I'm trying to push us back a little bit towards a place where we're more open to looking at data, and shared within the community as well, which I think has helped us greatly in the past.
There's always a little bit of a black box in looking into any data set. It can be either biased by the way it was collected, or it can be leaning towards some hypothesis you are trying to prove or disprove. And there's no 100% certainty that the conclusions you draw are right. But it doesn't mean you cannot follow advice that comes from the bigger sample, the better statistical significance, right? Any comments on that? Because I always feel like it's a little bit sleepy ground. It can get you into trouble sometimes when the calculations are kind of off. You discover later, or the collection was off. How about you?
Kevin?
Yeah, sure. So of course that can happen, right? The best picture, the best understanding of any problem comes from multiple analysis, multiple studies, multiple angles and perspectives. So whenever I write a data analysis or publish a data analysis, I always say, look, we need more data, we need more diverse data, and we need more data from other snapshots in time, right? So I think it's important to call out what the limitations of the data are, but that shouldn't mean that we should, pour out the baby with the bathwater. It just means that we need to be cautious, but there's a spectrum of information that helps us do a better job. On the one hand, you have personal experience and maybe anecdotes. On the other hand, you have large data sets, and the best people that I have encountered in my work life, whether they're CEOs or they're SEOs, they've always played the full range of the piano. They never just leaned on intuition and experience or anecdotes. They never just leaned on large data analysis. They always found the middle ground. And so, again, I think mistakes can happen. Sure, interpretation is subjective. Sure, but wise marketers look at several analyses and then form an opinion, which they validate through experience.
Yeah, and so I guess what I would say there is, it is that, like Kevin said, there was this whole thing where people got really disillusioned maybe by correlation studies, and it is really challenging because you're looking at a black box where there's more than 200 so-called rank factors, and each one is only going to move the needle a little bit. So these correlations are very small. And that's a little bit tough to get around. I do think you can draw a lot of conclusions, but what's perhaps frustrating about trying to do it with that kind of rank study is you are unable to look at the more nuanced signals that are causing the needle to move differently. And I think there are different ways to do that. And then there's just trends, which that's interesting to me. Maybe when we get into some more details, we can share some of that. But there's using, for example, keyword metrics and entity metrics to understand trends, and that's fascinating. That's not really even SEO, I suppose. But that's another side of all this, I think, is how much the data from Google and backwards engineering, which is basically what Chauffeur does, can tell us so many things about market trends as well and business intelligence.
By the way, the warm-up, I think the warm-up is done. We can go into the meat of this whole webinar, just so these 87 people on YouTube, 88 people in YouTube, a couple of people on LinkedIn and Facebook can get out of this. But two curiosities first. First is, I met both of these guys in Chiang Mai SEO conference. That's the place to be as an SEO. One thing, and the other thing, the very first H1 of Surfer landing page was data-driven SEO, and I think we can, with this in mind, we can kick off this presentation time. So I got on the schedule that Kevin goes first. So I'm about to switch the slides. Kevin, you can start sharing your screen, and we get into a couple of minutes of Kevin's idea on data analysis, and the stage is yours. We will interrupt you just in case, so we can argue a little. But the stage
Sure.
is yours.
Sure. Okay. So thanks for the stage. A little bit of context. You, Michal, and the team from Surfer were so kind to provide me with a large data set of AI overviews. We're talking about almost 550,000 rows, over 44 gigabytes of data. So I had a fun time playing around with this, and I turned it into two blog posts, if you will. As you can see here, the blog is called Growth Memo. And I slice and dice that data to better learn how AI overviews perform, and if we can learn something interesting about how to appear as citations in AI overviews. Now, I published this post a couple of months ago, so just know that since then the landscape has somewhat changed. But to quickly talk about the data, the majority is in English. Half of the data set was the live AI overviews. The other half of the data set was SGE, so Google's beta environment. Quick segue, we often confuse AI overviews and SGE. They're not the same. Google didn't launch SGE. Google launched AI overviews out of SGE. SGE is the beta environment. And so, yeah, that's kind of like what the data is about. And I tried to essentially ask 5 different questions that I'm walking you through now as a next step. Number 1 is, which domains are most visible in AI overviews? I abbreviate them as AIOs. And what's interesting is that there is a big gap between domains that are visible or have high visibility in Google search compared to AI overviews. When we talk about AI overview visibility, we really talk about citations in AI overviews. And as you can see here, the most cited domains, the top 3, are YouTube, Wikipedia, and LinkedIn. Interestingly, 2 out of those 3 domains are platforms where we can publish content, right? So I think the first takeaway that is important to understand is that by publishing content on YouTube and LinkedIn, you have a higher chance to influence or be visible in AI overviews. Doesn't mean you cannot do it when you publish content on your website, but an important shift that I think we're not talking about enough is that third-party platforms offer an opportunity to influence AI overviews. And by the way, also AI chatbots, but that's a different topic. Also interesting is that Reddit has not been very visible in AI overviews at all. I think Google showed them more prominently as a source or as a citation source very early on. And that has really changed. So Reddit, not a big source for AI overviews. Skipping ahead, what's also interesting
Hey,
is
Kevin.
that
Does it mean we could do some Parasite AIO on YouTube?
Sure. I mean, people YouTube Parasite a bit more. It's a bit tougher because you need to like figure out what content to create. You need a face. You could probably do it in a white label kind of faceless channel way, but I think the number 1 Parasites platform has to be LinkedIn when we talk about Parasite and AI overviews.
Nice.
Look, I don't want to endorse it. Okay, I'm not.
It's a nugget, but it's a golden nugget. You all remember that, because this way
Sure.
we can get some traction. Carry on.
Sure.
Just wanted to point that out.
People, of course, and people already do Parasite SEO on LinkedIn, so I think it's probably a small jump. Very quickly, the majority of AI overviews have citations, but I found about almost 1% that did not have any citations. And I'd be curious to run another data set to see if that's just more or less like outliers and maybe a test, or if we see more AI overviews without citations. But of course, a fear is that at some point Google might not show citations prominently, which means that there is really no hope for any referral traffic. But I want to put that in the speculation box, and for now say that it's not really a problem that we need to worry about.
Actually, the data is still being collected as we speak. So we had like 500,000, probably is like 3 million now. So maybe we can get back to this once again.
Count me in. I'm game for round 2. I'm very, very, very interested in this. So yeah, now we have it on tape, Michal. Thanks for commenting.
On 3 sources and my and my hard drive.
I hope somebody's recording this. But yeah, moving on. I don't want to hog the mic for too long. Another interesting finding is that there is not a huge overlap between domains that show up in AI overviews and domains that show up in the top 20 search results. So to take a step back, so we have these 550,000 queries, and I looked at which of those domains have which of those domains that show up for these 550,000 queries rank in the top 20 search results, and which of those are cited sources in AIOs. And that's the kind of Venn diagram that you see here. 9.2 million URLs, or domains better said, show up in the search results. 2.7 show up in AI overviews, and the overlap is 1.1 million, which should really show you that, the interesting part is probably the outer joint of this Venn diagram when it comes to AI overviews, meaning the domains that do not show up in organic search, at least not in the top 20, right? So Google shows a diverse set of domains yet, but again, I think once we rerun this analysis, I think the overlap is probably much, much larger. Anecdotally, again, mixing experience and data, I've seen a higher overlap between domains in the top spots on Google and as cited sources in AI overviews.
Isn't it really similar situation that we had with featured snippets, that you were ranking 11 or whatever, yet could crack the featured snippet code and get into the top 1 spot, overtaking everybody in between? So it's kind of sounds similar. Overall, AI overviews seems like a iteration of featured snippets, and kind of, I don't know, but it smells like that a bit.
It does, and interestingly, with the new December core update that Google just launched, I've seen a big drop in featured snippets, and I've seen an increase in AI overviews for the companies that I work with. So I think for a long time, and that was surprising to me, Google showed featured snippets and AI overviews at the same time. Doesn't make sense to me. It seems like now it's more a one or the other situation.
Nice.
All right. Another interesting thing is that only a small minority, I found about 6% of AI overviews actually include the search keyword. So the search keyword that you use to find the AI overview is often not included in the actual answer. And I think what it really means is that this hard match between the answer and the keyword is not as important anymore as user intent. And AI generally, LLMs maybe I should better say, are really good at understanding context and user intent. And so it makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's where featured snippets, for example, and AIOs are different. And what it simply means is that we have to be careful with over-indexing to match the exact keyword when we create content specifically for AI overviews, or when we tweak content for AI overviews. It's much more important to think about what are people actually trying to achieve, what topics or questions are top of mind within that search, and how can we give the best answer.
This is actually what I noticed on a different data study that I'm not presenting today, but in general, the usage of exact keywords in H1s, in titles, is dropping. Is literally dropping over time. I wouldn't say it doesn't matter. Definitely, there's still a strong dependency on the keywords because, well, when Google first indexes your page, it sees keywords. So that's the best they can do is read the text and extract some keywords. But overall, we can expect less and less exact matches in these top spots.
Yep, absolutely. And what's interesting, maybe to build on that real quick, is that if exact match is less important, then what's the line between content and specifically headings that are engaging versus informative, right? So I think I don't have data points on that, but if engaging users is more important than the exact match of a keyword, then how does that inform the way that we write headlines? That's essentially the question.
We can figure it out with the proper data.
Exactly. Questions from the field and then data from the lab. Also interesting, I looked at the difference between the AI overview in the field, right, in the live search results, compared to the beta environment SGE. And I found that in 70% of the time they're identical, but 30% of the time they're actually different. And so, unfortunately, I don't have a good answer here, just more questions. But I think the most interesting question is, can SGE, as the beta environment for search, be a predictor of what's to come? And would scraping SGE allow us to understand kind of where Google is taking AI overviews, whether that's specifically in terms of the content and the response that AI overviews have, or whether that's the design and layout of AI overviews?
I hope I can get again the 50-50 split in the next sample, so we can assign the data points and maybe figure out some answers to these questions.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I have a second article. I don't want to, again, maybe I can go through this very, very quickly. I'll try to keep it brief because I don't want to take time away from Eric. Hope that's okay.
Yeah. Share 2 nuggets from the article.
Okay, 2 nuggets. I think the number one
you asked for that. You asked for that.
Yeah, that's totally cool. That's totally cool. We should narrow it down. Keep it brief. So I think the one very interesting relationship that I found is the relationship between sites that drive a lot of organic traffic and sites that get cited a lot in AI overviews, and that relationship is incredibly strong. Now, hold your breath. I know that I got this pushback on LinkedIn. Everybody's like, oh, but Kevin, how do you dare publish this chart? There are 2 outliers that obviously skew the relationship big time. No, they don't. We're talking about a correlation of 0.7 something. And if we remove those 2 outliers, we're talking about a correlation of 0.6 something. So the fundamental message is still the same.
This is huge correlation. This is huge.
It's a strong correlation.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a really, really strong relationship, which you rarely see in SEO data. And again, yes, we need to be careful. But to all the correlation haters out there, I'll say that every correlation has a causation somewhere. So we need to be a bit open about the data. And what we see here is that domains that drive a lot of organic traffic typically perform well in AI overviews as well. Again, this could absolutely change. This could already be different. But that's probably one nugget that I've seen. So
if you are good in SEO, you are good in AIO.
Yes, exactly. For now, yes, exactly. That's it. And then the other nugget, real quick, is okay. We already talked about that. We talked about this. Okay, let me maybe pick this one. 40% of cited URLs in the AI overviews are outside of the top 10 search results. Again, this could be somewhat different by now, but it should go to show that you should not hesitate to optimize for AI overviews. We can talk about what works, what I see working as well when it comes to AIO optimization. But generally, whereas with featured snippets, you might have to wait until you're in the top 5 search results. With AIOs, you can start as early as the top 20. And again, this might be a shortcut to getting a lot more traffic, whereas the old search results, especially the top spots, are very hard to crack. When it comes to AI overviews, you might have a shot much, much earlier. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. All right. Before I hand over to Eric, like, share, and subscribe, everyone. I have to do this. And in the meantime, any comments, Eric, to what Kevin showed us?
Well, it's so striking to me, the sort of segue is so perfect because what he was looking at is all about AIO, and what I was looking at was all about natural language processing and how Google's been using that. I mean, for 15 years, I've been fascinated by that, and did one of the early studies on how they, are using topic relationships and that sort of thing. So that's NLP is kind of the precursor to what they're doing now with large language models. So, and that's what my study was. So it's an interesting segue, I guess.
Yeah, let's give it a shot, Eric. You can share your screen now, and I will set it up
Okay.
on my super hard to work with console.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. The Mr. Oz there.
Oh, we got
Tell me
it
when you guys
with.
can see.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
Good.
see
Good.
the tableau, we see the scientific screen, the proper one.
Yeah.
The
Let
stage
me
is yours,
find the
Eric.
best one here to show you guys first. Okay. Good. Thank you. Yeah. So just to give you really briefly what we did here, I partnered with White Lake Digital Marketing, which is an agency that Brie Moreau does, because at the time I didn't have someone that was good at Python and statistics to assist with this work. I've done so much of this in the past, and of course, the person doing the Python for these kinds of studies may not be a data scientist, and it's not necessarily all that difficult because it really should be someone like Kevin or someone like me with some experience doing these that's sort of telling them what to do. But you need someone reliable. So I did partner in that way. And then, so what we did was I designed this in a way that it would be products. And then each one is bucketed into categories. Also, the keywords are bucketed into search intent, either informational or buyer intent. So, for example, for informational, how to use gets added to Adobe Professional. And then let me just launch this little few of these slides that I made. Let's see. Okay, does
So it
does
was
that
like
look
a
visible?
programmatic research. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, it's really using Python, which is the best way to. I mean, you can do a lot of data research just using CSVs and Excel, but of course, having a Python programmer do it is the best way. So here's the main findings here. What's really fascinating is how actually, I mean, you guys have shown this plenty, I think, before, but how useful content score is. It's pretty incredible, because it's a conglomerate of many different factors, and when you throw them all together, you get you get this correlation that's so much higher than other things because it's really a great predictor of how pages rank. But by far what I really set out here most of all was to figure out whether these related entities and topics, in the way that you guys score them as being important or a little less important, how much do they really move the needle? And it was in some ways a bit shocking because I found that that's the number one on-page ranking factor, is the extent to which these common words and phrases, call them entities, call them topics, are being used. I think you when I've done these before, like you could see something like exact match to an H1, of course, could be probably a bigger correlation. I'm not sure that the way you guys do that is as impactful in terms of finding the correlation, but um, that's an easy thing to play around with, whereas this is something more sophisticated where people really need to be. Some people are tired of hearing about comprehensive coverage, but it's a fact. It's true, and it's not everything. You have to differentiate, and but it's still very important. So the other main things here were the number of referring domains to the parent domain or excuse me, no, I guess it was to the page, and then the number of ranked keywords to the domain. So yeah, this is a good graph, I guess. So here you can really see the impact of on-page factors for the body containing related common keywords and how it's bigger than some of these other things. The other interesting thing was still that HTML size or some of these time to first byte scores are still pretty important, although I think they've been really overdone at times. People tend to say, "Oh my goodness, speed is everything." Well, it's not that important. And then looking at the domains, because that's part of what I did here, is to understand something about the domain that a page sits on. So the domain estimated, authority basically, I mean, I guess it's pretty, you would guess that this is the case. Domain estimated traffic was a really big predictor too. So of course,
just like for the AI overviews, right? It's the same factor, like how many keywords you rank, how much traffic you got. Well, it's kind of
on the domain itself. Yeah,
Google like the bigger guys get more, right? The bigger guys get more, the smaller guys get less. Like entirely capitalistic approach to giving traffic. Sorry for interrupting. I just had to.
No, you're right, and this is after the helpful content update too. So there's of course even more of that than before. But this one's pretty interesting because this really shows you how big content score, how important that is a factor. And let's see. Okay, I gotta be mindful of my time here. So
no worries, I will cut you off.
Okay, yeah, please do it very aggressively. So the other thing that I mentioned was this buyer intent versus information. So this is exactly what I mean about it's a little bit, I wish that these subtle differences could be checked, but you're really slicing and dicing now into a very specific type of signal if you're trying to look at something like buyer intent or informational intent. And you can see that we did find some small differences, but they weren't too big. We did find some pretty with informational. And it is logical, but you have to be covering topics more because Google's using a lot of other signals when they rank e-commerce pages, and they can tell a lot more, and they can tell a lot about the authority of the website that it's on, for example, and the trust of the brand, but informational intent, you really have to show on that page that you're meeting the needs of the user. Let's see. Oh, and then actually this was a lot also about your money, your life. Again, a little bit, it gets tough because it's getting into a signal difference that's quite small. So we did find some differences, and perhaps content score is the most interesting one, where I actually, it was a bit funny, but I added all these banned and prohibited phrases that were ranked for things that I got the list from Amazon's banned and prohibited. And you can see here that it was really important that they have a high content score in order for them to rank. And then for health related, also, of course, it's it is what it is. It's a small difference in correlation. But it's meaningful enough, and it shows that it's even more important.
Can you name one banned keyword?
Oh my God, it was hilarious. There's a whole list of them in Amazon, and they're all these strange illegal products that have been sold over time, including gun ammunition and things that have been drugs that have been taken off the market because they make someone paralyzed or something weird like that. So that's pretty much it. I don't know how much time I just used, but that's mostly it for the study. I just put together some other things if we want to talk about some other data stuff, but for the study I think that's mostly it.
So we got a question that goes to Kevin, and I think I want to hear the answer as well. How to optimize for AIOs? If you can drop some bombs here, like maybe one thing. You don't have to disclose everything you know.
All right. So look, in the grand scheme of things, optimizing for AI overviews is very similar to featured snippets, where you want to see, do you have content that matches or is ideally better than the answers that are currently shown? Now, there's some differences. One, you have to optimize for specific sections in the AI overview. When you look closely, you'll see that every AI overview has 2, 3, sometimes 4 sections, sometimes 1, but usually 2 to 3, where maybe in the first one they explain what something is, in the second one to explain how to do it, and then maybe in the third one, tools for doing it, right? I'm just making something up. And so it's very rare that one piece of content can fulfill or give the best answer for all 3 of those sections. So you have to figure out, okay, which one can I compete for? Maybe based on the domains that are cited for that specific section or chunk. How can I provide a better answer? The tricky thing is that Google constantly refines the sections and chunks of the AI overview. So sometimes they completely change from one day to another. Other times, Google will slightly change the format, slightly change who they cite. So there's a lot of volatility in AI overviews, but that's essentially the approach.
Would you recommend averaging out, let's say, week-long scrapes of the same AIO to kind of get it rounded on the edges, or follow one pattern?
Look, it depends on your resources. If you can scrape them every day, that will certainly be better than weekly. And there's so much variation based on the industry. So I have a client, for example, in the health space, and their AI overviews are changing constantly, and it's very unpredictable. Sometimes they're stable for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and then they come back with a different answer. And then in other industries, especially e-commerce, they're a lot more stable because things don't change as often, and it seems like user intent and behavior is a bit more predictable. So it very much depends, and I would make resources or your resources the limiting factor here. The more often you can scrape or track them, the better.
Thank you. I think it helps a lot. And segue, again, another segue from what Eric explained about the content score. That is correlating really nice. I wish that was 0.6, right? I wish that was 0.6. We would only do content if that was the case, right? And building on top of that, I've got a little research based on our website, surferseo.com, and why we build tools. Like, what's the, for me, reason of looking into information, looking into bigger data, is to make sure that the content score still correlates. If we make any changes to content score, are they going to impact positively or negatively the correlation? It's like a sanity check. Like recently, we added lemmatization to keywords, to entities, because, well, back in the days when you typed in Google lawyers Chicago and lawyer Chicago, you get totally different results. It was like, okay, it's kind of important to have this way or that way. But then, like a couple years later, we revisited that and checked the correlations. Does it make sense to lemmatize the keywords? Will it decrease the efficiency of the content score, but will increase the way how easy it is to optimize with lemmatized versions? And it turns out that yes, we can let people use keywords in the variations because it doesn't hurt correlation, but it improves the user experience. So this is why we do data analysis. And I will take over the screen right now to show you why we built another thing into the content.
Oh, your voice cut out.
Yeah, we can hear me, Michal.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
Okay,
you
you're
are
back.
my tech guys.
Thanks.
Yes, I'm back because I was on mute. Too many buttons, too many buttons. All right, so why we built that tool? I got only 10 slides, so no worries. It's not gonna be long. I will keep it short. Comprehensive content, how it helps. First, quickly, Why comprehensive content matters? We discussed that. We got some different factors. We got technical, we got user signals, we got off-page factors and on-page factors, which is all the content scores, but actually as well the content coverage. So we got the correlation of content score 0.27, and we got the correlation of content coverage, which is information in the content, which is 0.17. So what does it mean in general? As the outcome of covering more topics, more facts in your content, you get broader keyword coverage. Nothing crazy about it, but well, it works. If it works, we build it and you can get better results. So the search engines will reward you if you provide this in depth. And you can guys always interrupt me, by the way. What's inside the study? So we analyzed the top 100 server blog posts that are performing well. We measured the facts coverage, so how many facts we included in the articles and how many facts others included in their articles. Just like entities, but with a context. It's not like a raw entity, but entity used to convey information. And we obviously use the Spearman's correlation to check if there is anything to it. And as you can see, the average SERP coverage is about like 0.4 something, and for us it was growing from the worst articles to the best articles. So what are these facts? First, it's a piece of information, like incorporating personal anecdotes and experiences make content more relatable and engaging. And you could have an entity of anecdote, of experience, of content, having that the verb that it's engaging, like adjective, sorry. So it's basically you can use a bunch of words in a random order, or you can use these words to provide the information. That's the difference between entities and facts. And we obviously assessed these facts from the top ranking pages and checked against ourselves. So another example is like AI detectors use machine learning algorithms to analyze text. It's a fact. You could use random words like AI detector somewhere, machine learning algorithms somewhere else, text somewhere else, and it wouldn't convey the information as the example fact conveys. Okay, so how it works. We took the top 10 best performing out of the 100 and bottom 10 worst performing. And the top 10 turned out to have like 0.74 facts covered. And the bottom only 0.5. Eric wanted to add something? And it turns out that the content score itself correlates for 0.27 and the facts, the comprehensiveness, 0.17. And they combine. I thought at first that they will go in parallel because, well, facts use entities, entities are scored, so they will like not sum up. But apparently, if you combine these two, so not only entities but also the facts, it turns out you rank better. How better? This is how it looks like. So you basically rank for more keywords if you cover more facts. The correlation isn't like crazy strong, but it's 0.12. Not bad, not bad at all. If you can get a little bit more keywords you can rank for. So the broader topic coverage captures more search queries. Another one, visibility. This is the impressions. I had the number of keywords here. Now I have the impressions. And it's 0.14. More comprehensive articles, more impressions in the SERPs, greater keyword variety, and well, it's basically you get more than just primary keywords. Primary keywords is there ranked, but you also get these long tails as well if you cover these topics the right way. A little case study. So our score is when the coverage is like 0.8, which is 80%, and the average SERP coverage was 0.44. avoid AI detection. And it turns out that we managed to rank for my keyword and a lot of related keywords like how to humanize. And it shows that the facts coverage expands on keywords reach. I know these are like obvious stuff, obvious, but people often overlook it. They will put entities in whatever places. Okay, score go up, fine. No, you shouldn't do it this way. Every time the entity is being added to your content, it has to have a reason to be there. You can add it in display none, put it at the bottom of the text, or just type a comment at the very bottom, but it won't move the needle as much as it would move the needle if the entity was used the right way. You can do it manually, go through the SERP, extract the facts, subtopics, put them together, but well, it will take some time. Your content will address more information, but obviously Surfer does it. We got a new topics tab that highlights these missing facts, and it's Surfer's webinar, so I will give it this shameless plug, but it's a good stuff. That's why we build it. You can use the Surfy AI assistant to fill these gaps, and well, these facts, just a few of those, you don't have to add them all. They will boost your visibility. So the summary, because that's supposed to be quick, comprehensive content ranks better, more facts, more impressions, more traffic, obvious stuff, but do it. Please do it. It's there. It's available for everyone. One click away. If you are optimizing, do it. Well, it's overlooked strategy quite often. So, ready to get started? Those that are not using it yet, try it out in Surfer's content editor. Use the topics in Surfy to get it done. If you are not a user of Surfer, 73 people on YouTube still there with us. Thank you for still being with us. If you are not a client, there is money back guarantee 7 days. So just try it out, please. It works. If it didn't work, I wouldn't be speaking to you. We have such a great company as Kevin and Eric. Questions? Let's go.
Love that, by the way. The facts point is really interesting. So a fact could be, as you said, it could be an entity plus a verb plus a statistic or like a data point. For example, I don't know, something like glass cups are healthier than, or like, I don't know, 50% healthier than plastic cups, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. 100%.
But actually, I was really curious, Michal. How are you guys? I mean, you're calling them topics in the tool. So how do you define? And you and I spoke about this too, but I forgot what you ended up deciding on. How do you define? You're saying topics are very similar to facts. So how do you define that? And a fact is something that there's, like with NLP and natural language processing, there's agreement on between many documents. So if you're calling it a fact, it sounds to me like it's something where there's a very strong agreement within different authoritative.
Yeah, I would call it even like opinion, maybe, or like it's not easy to name it. I can tell you, I got a headache for a couple of weeks. Like, how do we really name it so people can understand? Like, it doesn't have to be necessarily a fact. It's a fact that someone told that. Right? It's a fact that I say plastic glasses are better, and you can call it a fact because I said that in my article. But in general, it's about that some entity causes some action.
Oh, okay.
Basically, this is how we can think about a fact. Like you got the Shilajit thing, and what's the dosage? Dosage is 0.5 grams a day, and that's the fact. If it's true, I don't know. I think it's true because Google, one of the smartest computers in the whole world, thought to put it on top of their search results while they could choose from million others. They choose that, so I trust it. I mean, I meaning the topics tab. And how we build it is basically we trained some models to extract information in some more detailed way than just keyword extraction NLP based algorithms. They use the keyword extraction, so we like look for the potential facts by spotting these meaningful keywords, and if we spot the meaningful keywords, we check if there is a meaning, broader meaning around the entity, or it is just I like doing SEO audits, right? It can be comment like that. So we won't choose it as a fact.
I would assume that Google probably looks for some sort of consensus when there is enough of a data or data foundation for Google to look at a consensus or to establish consensus for an entity. And the other thing I'd be curious about is how those facts relate to your topical authority, right? So say you're an expert in the space of chemicals, right? Then talking about the impact of plastic cups is probably a good fit. And then if there is consensus established and you support that consensus with your facts, then it's probably a kind of a like the sweet spot you want to be in. Whereas if you're an e-commerce store selling, I don't know, kids toys, then talking about chemicals might be relevant, but it's probably not as good of a fit as
BPA free or something.
Yeah, exactly, that type of stuff. So, I wonder how you think about that, Michal Suski. Michal. I can just use your first name. Like Michal, how do you think about the importance of topical authority and consensus when it comes to like using facts?
I think it will have a compound effect because in general, having the topical authority helps you rank for the whole niche. We had this situation at Surfer when we published a lot of articles about avoiding this AI detection, and these were well-researched pieces of content that provided value and so on. They were like full of these facts. And then when we released the landing page with the AI detection tool, it took off because I'm guessing that there was a sort of opinion that Surfer is eligible to talk about AI detection and release a tool that will detect AI content. I don't have it measured because the topics weren't, the facts, topics, whatever, weren't released by then. But I would say it's a strong predictor.
You know what I think is also really interesting here is, and Michal, you and I have talked about this too, the difference between pages covering entities or topics versus, like you just said, Kevin, the whole website being an authority on a topic. So if we can look at all the pages on a site or take a sample and compare it to other pages that are not on a site that's really about that specifically. I'm not going to mention any of your competitors, Michal. As you know, I used to do some.
I will
work with
beep
one
it.
that would
I
look
will
for
beep
the
it.
whole website. Yeah, you can just beep it out, but I won't say it. But I think actually no, you guys have that now, right? Because you have the ability to look at everything someone's ranking for, but you also have these topical maps that let people look at the whole picture. But that's not a website. But so what I'm really saying is if you look at someone's like Google Search Console and you're getting all the things they're ranked for, you can really see what they're an authority on. And then you can try and figure out to what extent you should hone in on. That would be a fascinating study. To what extent you should hone in, and you could correlate that with like domain authority, because we know that the more authoritative you are, the more broad your topic coverage can be.
Topical authority study is coming soon. It's coming soon.
Oh.
And I can tell you already from some early analysis that it turned out that there were many keywords, that niche pages that were really about the thing outranked big pages, skewing this 0.6 correlation, right? That was this 0.4, the opposite 0.4. So with the topical authority in place, you can outrank Forbes on keywords that you are a subject matter expert. And when you said that, you look at your search console and you see whether you are an expert in this area or not. You can name that you are an expert here and halfway there. So the question is how to grow your website, to not dilute yourself, to not lose the expertise in one area, yet be able to expand to acquire more areas. That's an open question, but I feel like that if we can crack it, we'll be able to grow websites responsibly, because the content is free now, almost free or really cheap. So if we crack the code of growing the website responsibly, that might be the holy grail. That next big thing in SEO. We had a question, and that's a it
Just
depends
one,
kind of
that's all.
question. No, we got some more, but this is the it depends kind of question, so I will bring it up. Why some websites rank for keywords without being comprehensive? I should
You want
choose?
to jump in, Eric? Yeah, choose. Eric, Michal, you choose.
No. If I choose, that means I'm biased. I would flip a coin.
Well, I mean,
Eric
there's a
is
simple answer
okay.
there, obviously,
Oh, I
which is
lost the
Google
coin.
just loves brands and authority right now, right? So you can be, and it's what's strange to me is, I mean, I'm always the old man, the old SEO in the room. So, I remember back in, or even before the internet, right? Like magazines like Entrepreneur, they were just considered garbage. And these websites have incredible authority in terms of like their link profile. I don't know whether their brand could be deemed in the age of the internet as being high quality or not, because it was garbage, even though it was so popular back in the day. But yeah, I mean, we've seen that the ability of high authority and brand recognition just can kill the smaller sites. And I think it sucks, quite frankly. I think I know so many SEOs have been outspoken, but I have to just say, like, the thing that killed me doing this study was seeing how Google was saying, like, oh, let us do the searching for you by using our AI, including for health topics. I mean, it's so, to me, it's so cynical that they have all this, like, your money, your life, and yet here they are returning, like, AIOs that are about your money, your life, which are less reliable than a small niche site trying to,
Just eat
be
that rock,
more
Eric.
accurate than
Just
what.
eat the rock. Eat the rock, and you will be fine. Okay, 2 rocks a day, and totally okay. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Quick comment, Kevin, on that, and we got really nice question next.
Yeah, I want to jump to the next question. I don't have much more to add. Authority
Yeah.
overpowered, many signals
It's
in Google's ranking algorithm.
it's
I
all
don't think
about drawing that pie chart and carving, like, this is the authority, this is the content, this is something brand, whatever. So it
Right.
depends on the keyword. Basically, it could be even branded keyword, and still we don't know that. Okay, how to get into data science using Python, R to solve daily SEO challenges, where to find information, where to look for learning resource. Tableau, free tool to visualize, right? Good way to start with something.
Tableau is
Go
cool.
for it.
That's
I
my
would
big
say.
thing, but Kevin, you say yours.
Oh, sorry, Eric. Didn't mean to cut you off there. Two things. One is, the first question is, what are you trying to do? I know, look, I do this myself all the time where I find a cool tool or an approach. I'm like, awesome, I want to learn this. But it should be the other way around, where you find a problem and then you evaluate different ways to get there. The other thing I'll say is that, man, this is the golden age of learning whatever you want. AI is so good at guiding you, especially Gemini's new real-time streaming. I don't know if you've seen that before, but you can now literally share your screen and ask questions, and it will answer you in
Badass.
real time and guide you through. It is insane. And so what I have done for this study that I presented is I use a lot of, so I use BigQuery to store the data and also to evaluate the data. And I got so much out of ChatGPT, where I took a screenshot and I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. How can I do this? ChatGPT says something, you try it out, you kind of debug a couple times, go back and forth, and eventually get to a good result. Now you can do that in real time with Gemini streaming. And so I think the question is much more, what are you trying to do and how can you get there and how can you learn the process of maybe AI guiding you rather than buying a book and starting from scratch. Now, I will say that I don't think it's enough to just learn from AI, but AI can get you to do the thing, and then you can go back and understand why has what I just did worked. Like what are the mechanics? But first, maybe do it right to get some success and to like understand what it's like to do the thing, and then if you're still intrigued, you can go back and learn why it worked.
Thank you so much. Comment for me, hire data scientists. We got a couple in house, which is a blessing. But ChatGPT as a resource would be probably awesome to guide you. So no books, no, like if you are early in the journey, there's nothing it can help you with really. And the data scientists say, the guys I work with, like these SEO problems are not that complex. On the uni, they do so much crazier stuff than we do. So it's not these problems that we are solving are not that crazy as they do. Eric, over to you.
Yeah, so I would, that's true, but then again, I've seen so many people that are really good SEOs and don't understand the basics of doing science, to put it simply. If you haven't taken classes in university in science and you try and take on some of these things, it's very challenging. So part of what I'm doing now is consulting with companies that are trying to do data studies, in particular for content marketing, and helping them figure out, yeah, they're experts, but do they really know, how to measure things for using publicly available data, for example, that they can share? And a lot of them don't. And this is going back 15 years when I was working with the VP of marketing for SEMrush. Like, I was shocked that it was just not something. I can't believe of the smartest people I know in SEO, they can't. You ask them, like, what would you like to measure and do with the publicly available data, and they don't really know. So there's that. But then you were saying that these questions are not as difficult. They are if you let a data scientist go off on his own. Please don't do it. Because I see when that happens, then you have like the sentiment analysis of something that's like, how is that going to understand? How's that going to help us understand what Google likes or doesn't like? Like, I've seen these really cool studies, and I've worked on some with sentiment analysis. But if you're trying to figure out how Google does things, that's a different animal than what they might be used to with sentiment analysis.
Yeah.
And then I don't think we have much time, but I do think
Yeah.
Tableau Public is an awesome place to learn from.
In the end, you want to help yourself get better results. So even starting as simple as analyzing, clustering your keywords from the Search Console export, combining it with the URLs, combining with titles, checking the semantical distance of your content
Yes.
and keywords you rank for. I mean, we could probably produce a couple of more ideas for the training to find out how close you are to where you want to be. Would be relatively easy, but yeah, we just crossed an hour and we still have 65 people on the live, which is obviously thanks to you, Kevin and Eric. I appreciate that. Well, mm, give us some likes. I want to see like these likes like bumping on YouTube. And by the way, if you want more of episodes like that, when we basically have some free side discussion without massive structure, there was no structure, was it? You can confirm there was no real structure in it. Uh, Let us know. Anything to add, folks?
No, this was great. Thanks for. I love the format or the no format, but I think it's very kind of authentic, very behind the scenes. So thanks for hosting, Michal, and to the whole Surfer team, and thanks, Eric, for sharing your insights.
Yeah, thank you both so much. I'd love to come back and do this in 3 years when we have agents running wild all over the internet. And literally every single thing we just said is totally irrelevant. No, but Kevin, that's why I really love what you're doing so much, is because you're probably the guy that's really on top of AI so much. And um, it's so hard to know where it's going to take us, but even just holding on to the little pieces of thread that we have that tell us something about where it's going to be is so important, because in a couple of years, everything will just radically be different, I think.
So nice. And Chiangmai connected us, which is really awesome. Clamp, or like Chiangmai started Surfer for real. Chiangmai connected us for this webinar.
Yeah.
It's really a biggie. So yeah, thank you again. Really appreciate your presence, your effort in preparation, in having all of these things. Yeah, I will just end the stream now. That was great. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks a million. Yeah. Thank you.
we
Cheers.
are still on a live, even though the thanks for watching is there, but I will find the
Okay.
mute button and then the stream. Oh
Just
yes,
stay
I
alive the
love
whole
it.
day.
Yeah. There was one politician in Poland that fall asleep during the TikTok live, and his manager called him like, "Hey, bro, you are like you." Like he's an old guy, but but now I will mute for real and end the stream. Cheers.
Thank you, man.